What's up, Lost Boys? Here we are for our final regular season fantasy football recap video. Guys, fantasy football season, at least the regular season, is over. The year has flown by. It feels like yesterday we were just at Tim's partying it up, doing our draft, and here we are. It's done. We just got done. Monday Night Football just finished, officially finished the week, and what a week it was. We're going to get right into it right now. Let's first start with a couple things that are concrete. Our first thing we're going to talk about, last place. Cal, sorry, brother. You were last place last year. Your name was turned into the Titty Sucker 4000. And apparently the titties didn't get sucked enough because you are now back-to-back last place. That's pretty brutal. So hopefully you can step your game up next year and get out of that bottom of the barrel. But Cal's in last place. But now let's get into the juicy stuff. So just a quick recap, guys. Going into this week, Josh and Denny had the top two spots pretty much clinched. Okay. Then you had four teams fighting for those final two playoff spots. You had Matt. You had Tim. Matt and Tim were there, okay? They were a game ahead of Ryan and Justin. But if Ryan and Justin both won and those two lost, there was a chance, especially with Ryan, that they could catch them in points, okay? That was the thing. The scenario is Ryan was 20 points behind Tim and was about 60 points behind Matt, okay? So Ryan needed a big week this week. And Justin also needed a big week this week. So we're going to start with Justin's game. He played Denny, okay? And Denny wasn't fucking around. He was warming up for the playoffs. 172 points. Absolutely smashed Justin. The bigger story is Justin didn't get near the points he needed, and it was over pretty quickly for Justin. He was officially eliminated when Denny beat his ass. Then it came down to three games: Matt's game, Tim's game, and Josh and Ryan's game. Josh and Ryan's game was the game that everyone in the league was watching this week because it held so many people's fates in its hands. Tim knew and Matt knew all they had to do was win and in. They were win and they were in, right? But if they couldn't win, they at least were hoping to score some points. Well, bad news for both of them. They did neither. Tim just no-showed this week. He was playing Cass. Cass scored a good amount of points, 167, but even worse for Tim, Tim didn't score any points. He scored 119 points this week. Absolutely putrid performance, one of his worst ones of the year. So Tim goes down, and he didn't score any points. So worst case scenario for Tim. Matt did the exact same thing. Both guys scored 119 points, Tim and Matt. Matt gets smoked by Jace. So both of these guys who came into the week with the playoff spots locked up, knowing all they did was have to win or score a lot of points, did neither. They both lose. They both didn't score any points. And now all eyes are specifically on Josh and Ryan's matchup. And man, what a matchup it was. These two guys have had some epic battles in the past in the playoffs and fantasy. And Ryan has been showing it, especially the last 8 weeks, how good of a fantasy football player he is. And he did it again this week. Scored 176 points. It was the second most points this week because he had the bad beat of the year. 176 points. He got the points he needed. He almost got the points he needed to catch Matt. He for sure was going to pass Tim in points. Unfortunately, he ran into a juggernaut this week. Josh sets the new record for most points ever in a week. 222 points. Ryan had to be a little frustrated. His team was dominant. His team has been so good. Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, his pickups left and right, even his quarterbacks. I mean, we watched Devontae Adams going off, but was Ryan's quarterback. Rodgers had his best game of the year. He had Sam Darnold, but honestly, the guys tonight, it honestly didn't matter. They could have had a chance. They would have had to put up 30 points each. But just rough week for Ryan. He did everything he could have done. To be honest with you, I think his season, that game, it was like 4 weeks ago. Let me look real quick. It was 4 weeks ago, I think, against Justin. And he played Barreto. They were tied at the time. Yeah, he lost to Justin by 4 points, 3.5 points. It was on a Monday night game, and it was so big for the swing of the season. If Ryan would have pulled that game out, he would be in the playoffs right now over Tim, which is crazy to think. But that's fantasy. I mean, Tim had a 2-yard loss to Matt, and if Tim would have got that, then Matt would have been out. So absolutely brutal, tough week for Ryan. His team performed. They did the best they could. He may have been the second or third hottest team in the league going into the playoffs. Unfortunately, he's going to fall to 5th place. Ryan, awesome year. You definitely proved your fantasy chops this year. Just want to give you credit where credit's due. You kicked ass. And same with you, Bretto. I mean, you were in the same spot as Ryan. You battled. Your first round pick was injured for half the year in Puka. Your second round pick was Mahomes, who definitely underwhelmed, and you still managed to fight it out. So awesome job to both of you guys. But that's it, guys. That's it. We have our 4 playoff teams. It's going to be number 1, Josh, number 2, Denny, number 3, Roman, number 4. So our playoff matchup is going to be Josh versus Tim and Denny versus Roman. Denny versus Roman is going to be, both of these are going to be epic matchups. These 4 teams have been in the top 4 for probably the last 6 or 7 weeks, which is really weird. We don't ever really see this in our league where the same 4 teams are at the top most of the time, but this is how it's been. These 2 teams, most of these teams scored a majority of the most points in the league. Like I said, we have the first, the second, and the third most points scored in the league this year, all in the playoffs. Tim got barely passed by Ryan, but other than that, Tim makes it in. You know, it's going to be an awesome playoffs. Every single team has flaws, and every single team has awesome things. Tim he's playing Josh this week. Tim has a couple things. His quarterbacks who've been so-so the last few weeks, they get awesome matchups. The Bills defense has been awful. Drake May's going to put up some points. Brock Purdy's going to be playing against the Miami defense this week, so I guarantee you he's going to have a way better comeback story than his crappy game last Thursday night. And huge news for Tim, David Montgomery's out. So all those prime running back carries on the Lions are going to go to Gibbs. It's going to be monsters for him. Gibbs is, mark him down, 30 fantasy points this week in the playoffs. Could carry Tim to a huge victory. I think it's going to come down to A-Chain. I think it's going to come down to Mixon. Those guys, when they played Josh the first time of the season, they went off. Tim almost set the record that week. If A-Chain and Mixon can step it up and Tim gets a good performance from his flex, he has an insane shot to win. Josh, on the flip side, he has Josh Allen, fantasy monster, but he may have used up all of his muster the last 2 weeks. I mean, the dude's put up 90 fantasy points the last 2 weeks. He plays New England. I can see this game being over at halftime, and they kind of just run the ball. Other than that, Josh has some other good matchups. Josh team, he scored the most points this year. He's a pretty good team, but Alvin Kamara left last game with a groin injury. Breece Hall's been questionable the last few weeks. So who knows what can happen. He's just going to need a good performance from his guys. He needs his quarterbacks to carry him, though, and Tim has some good matchups with his quarterbacks. So that's going to be a tricky one. Then we have the one with Denny and Matt. This one's going to be epic. Denny's team, like I said, I think Denny's team is prime. He's prime. He's been awesome. He's so high skill. I mean, Denny put up 176 points this week, and he got 0 from Cooper Kupp. So who knows what he could have done. But I've been talking about Denny's team all season. Cooper Kupp, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, all the best wide receivers in the league, just dominating. CeeDee's finally starting to get a rapport with Cooper Rush. A.J. Brown talked some trash on Jalen Hurts. Well, now they're feeding him the ball. They're going against Washington's defense. And you know Cooper Kupp ain't going to have 2 bad weeks in a row. Denny just needs something good from Herbert. That's his biggest thing. He has Goff. They're playing Chicago. Chicago's D hasn't been very good. You know the Lions, after losing to the Bills, are going to come out pissed. They're going to score a lot. Goff should do really well. Herbert, we'll see. That's Denny's Achilles heel, is his quarterbacks. We'll see if he can step it up and take down Matt. Matt, on the other hand, his team's been good all year. He has 2 awesome, well, used to be awesome runnings, but Saquon, the best running back in fantasy, had a down week this week, but in general has been an absolute beast all year. He has Jonathan Taylor. He has James Conner. So Matt has the running back position stacked. Can he get it from his wide receivers? Adam Thielen, Drake London, JSN, Zay Flowers. He doesn't have the stars, but he could get it. We'll see. I mean, Matt's team is right now. He needs his quarterbacks to help him. He needs Jordan Love and Tua to have pretty much one of their best games of the year. That's the only way I think that he can beat Denny. I think Denny's team overall is just better across the board. So either way, it's fantasy football playoffs, boys. The way I always say it is it takes fantasy skill to get to the playoffs. Once you're in the playoffs, honestly, it's kind of a coin flip. It just depends on what players do well, what the matchups are, how the weather is this time of year. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but all four of these guys have done an awesome job this year. Everyone in the league did an awesome job this year. This was probably the closest league we've ever had, as in so many guys were still in playoff contention up until the last 2 weeks. They were fighting. So awesome job, everyone. There were some people. Pat had a lot of injuries. Cass had a lot of points scored against him. But in general, awesome fantasy year, guys. I love you guys. It was so much fun. And we got fantasy playoffs. They start Thursday. I think our Thursday game is Denver versus the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a lot of guys that going in. There's a decent amount of guys playing in that game. So we'll see how the week starts out. Chiefs play on Saturday this week, so it's a kind of a weird Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday kind of week. And then we get to Christmas week. But we're going to know real quickly how the week's going to start out on Thursday, guys. So awesome job, everyone. Can't wait to see these playoff matchups. Love you guys.